When you are engaging with a library patron in regard to an information request, whether working the front desk or as a research consultant, you are essentially conducting what librarians call a reference interview. The goal is to ask the right kinds of questions and conversationally build a comfortable interaction in order to establish what the person needs and wants. Library patrons frequently approach a reference interaction thinking they need one piece or type of information, but throughout the course of a reference interview, you may discover that their actual need is quite different. This is not to imply that customers should be lectured or forcibly guided toward what you think is the appropriate information. Instead, you will be participating in a back-and-forth conversation in which both parties share ideas. We often refer to the disparity between an expressed information need and the actual need as an information gap. Your job is to discover what is in this gap and how you can utilize library resources to fill it. The next step in a reference interview involves using your library's resources to provide the information the patron needs. Taking an approach of demonstrating or asking for the patron to participate in the search process empowers your patron to become a more self-sufficient information seeker in the future. The Reference and User Services Association recommends 5 key areas of behavioral performance for reference interactions. The following learning elements will focus on these performance areas: inclusion, approachability, engagement, searching, and evaluation. Aligning with the Russo behavior of approachability, you will need to start the session with questions that can put your patron at ease. A little small talk might go a long way in making them feel comfortable. Keep in mind that many people are intimidated by the prospect of asking questions in the library, so be as approachable as possible. This is your opportunity to establish a friendly rapport and establish trust. Many library patrons experience anxiety about requesting assistance in finding information. In an era of information wealth and constant connectivity, many fear judgment for being unable to independently find what they need. Watch for signs of this library anxiety and hone your interpersonal skills as a means of overcoming any patron hesitancy. Don't skip the greeting. Also, don't underestimate the importance of body language as it pertains to communicating your willingness to help. Make eye contact and have an open and pleasant expression. We've all had experiences when a service industry worker couldn't peel their eyes away from a phone or computer while addressing our request, and that approach is certainly not conducive to trust or open exchanges. Give the patron your undivided attention and let them know that they are your priority. There are 6 key pieces of information you should have at the end of a successful reference interview. Purpose. Know why the information is needed. Is it for an assignment, personal curiosity, etc.? Deadline. When does the customer need the information? Type and amount. How much information is needed and what type? For example, a student working on their thesis might require extensive sources, including peer-reviewed articles, whereas a patron with a quick reference inquiry might simply need an answer from a reference resource. Who? What does the patron know about this topic already? Are they a beginner or an expert on the subject? Where? What prompted this question? How did the patron hear about this topic? And the basic question: what information does your patron truly need? Setting goals at the onset of a reference interview may not be required in quick, ready reference interactions. But if you're working as a research consultant or have a visitor with a more nuanced information need, don't skip this important planning step. This is your chance to establish what the patron wants to accomplish during your interaction. You may also find these preset goals useful at the close of your session, as they will provide benchmarks for how successfully you and the patron completed these goals. Again, it is important to keep body language and personality in mind and display plenty of eye contact and genuine interest in your patron's needs. Sometimes a patron will come to you with a broad, overarching question that could have thousands of potential answers or directions. This may be particularly true if you're working as a research consultant and researchers have yet to establish a concise and meaningful research question. For example, if a student comes to you requesting help researching marine biology, you might ask open-ended questions to help narrow down the scope of that topic. Are you interested in the history of the topic, or are you looking for more recent scholarly articles? Is this for a particular class assignment? And if so, what are those parameters? What made you want to learn more about this topic? This last question can be particularly helpful, as it often leads to a patron providing a backstory of what brought them to you for help in the first place. Maybe they recently saw a documentary on the subject, or perhaps they are attempting to write an assigned research paper. Knowing information like that can help you establish the driving motivation of your patron's needs. You might consider brainstorming with your patron for key search terms. Most patrons approach a reference interaction after having tried to locate the information they require on their own. Ask them what types of searches and terms they've tried already. Then offer some suggestions and ask them to participate in brainstorming new search terms with you. A helpful question to get this part of a reference interview rolling is, how do you usually come up with search terms? This will help you gauge the patron's experience with research or general information seeking without invasively asking them to self-criticize their own skill levels. Mind maps can be a useful tool, particularly in research consultation and detailed reference interviews. Similar to brainstorming, mind maps are an opportunity to generate new ideas and concepts, but in a non-linear fashion. Write down ideas and connect them with other related concepts as you go. This method not only generates original thoughts, but also helps your patrons see how their topics are interconnected. Throughout the reference interview, it is important to act as a guide. Keep the patron talking by asking lots of questions. Don't simply perform the searches yourself, have them take ownership and participate by generating keywords, exploring databases, and self-evaluating their progress along the way. Your goal is not just to fill an information need, but to teach the patron how to become a more competent and skilled researcher in the future. Again, we're focusing on the importance of personality. A good guide does not just fling information at a patron and walk away. Make your reference interview all about a two-way conversation. You can accomplish this by asking open-ended questions that encourage a patron to expand upon a thought or idea. This will not only help your patron develop information-seeking skills of their own, but can also demonstrate awareness and interest on your part. One form of open-ended question you might find useful, particularly if you are assisting a patron with academic research, are guiding questions. These provide the opportunity for the two-way conversation that we've established to be so important. It's also your chance to gain some clarity. Some examples of guiding questions might be, is there any other basic or background information that you need? What originally made you interested in this topic? What types of searches, if any, have you already done on this topic? What search terms could you use? Are there any synonyms that come to mind? Whose voices do you need to hear from for a strong argument? Leading questions may come in handy as well, particularly if you fear your patron might be veering off on a research tangent or possibly selecting low-quality sources of information. Consider these questions as gentle pushes in the right direction and a chance for you to correct a patron without directly pointing out an error. For example, you might ask, do you think you have enough sources at this point? Have you tried the library's federated search on the website yet? This is especially useful if a patron is seeking academic research but has previously searched using only Google or another commercial search engine. You need peer-reviewed sources. Is this one peer-reviewed? Since this source seems to be relevant to your needs, can you find the subject headings and generate some new search terms based on those? Does this source cite previous sources or research that make particularly relevant points? Be purposeful and confident in the questions you ask, as they will guide your patron's behaviors. There's a good reason why we keep mentioning the importance of personality. How approachable and open you are perceived to be will directly impact how successfully you can conduct a reference interview. As previously mentioned, a lot of library patrons experience a high degree of anxiety about reaching out for help. They often fear that they will be judged for being unable to locate the information they need on their own. Peer comparisons, general social anxiety, or a lack of experience may all negatively impact a patron's willingness to seek assistance. Your friendly, open, and accepting personality may be the thing that overcomes all of this and lets the patron know that the library is a safe space for inquiries of all kinds. In our roles as reference workers or research consultants, we are essentially serving as instructors, relating information to others. Researcher Carol Dweck in 2014 points out the importance of the growth mindset in such situations. In the growth mindset, it is essential that we offer praise, encourage others to learn from their mistakes, and understand that progress is to be celebrated. Praising a learner for effort is more important to a person's ability to retain information and grow their skills than praising someone for a perceived inherent ability. If you are in a prolonged conversation or set of interactions with a patron, be sure to point out the progress they've made and encourage them to take pride in these efforts. Particularly in ongoing research interactions, help keep your patron aware of research as a process by encouraging ongoing reflection. Try to shift the focus away from results-driven to emphasize the importance of the steps and skills developed along the way. Consider the following questions and how they may help fuel the reflection. How did you come up with these new search terms? Where on the library website did you find that source? If you had to do this particular search again, what might you do differently? Ending a reference interview will involve at least a summative statement and a request that the patron confirm if their information need was met. This is known as the follow-up. The more complex and lengthy the reference interview or interaction, the more information is needed when closing the interview. For example, do you need to make a plan to meet with this patron again for future assistance? Should you brainstorm a list of to-do items for the interim to ensure that research momentum is maintained? Try to discover what questions were successfully answered for the patron during the interaction and what new questions may have come up.